Hi there, everybody. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, Chairman and Co-owner of Peterborough United. And another good weekend.
Posh Bradford win double,
yeah.
Right? Posh Bradford win double. That should be the title of the episode,
Frame
right? Yeah. There you go. You know what I mean? We'll both take another 25 of those weekends, no?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, yeah. Now, listen, really good weekend for everyone. And, it's what was great for me, from my point of view, was, we obviously lost last week, and then we went and did the business on Tuesday against an unbeaten side in Sheffield Wednesday. That was very methodical, very professional. And they're a bloody good side. And, we had a really good crowd there. And then on Saturday, you're facing another unbeaten team, Lincoln. Fair play to them. So you're a bit apprehensive. So to win both those games and do it so convincingly with 2 clean sheets, yeah, brilliant, because you don't get promoted, win titles without being brilliant at home. And again, we had 9,000 plus. So across the 5 days, the fans have come out. The atmosphere is good. The players have come out. No word of a lie on Saturday. If we'd been 8-0 up at half time, I'd have said we were unlucky not to be more up. I mean, Jack Marriott's missed 3 1-on-1s. He's at the post twice. It was just, it was one of the best performances probably for 2 years I've seen at home. It was just complete domination. And again, I didn't see the second half because obviously my superstition. People say we're 2-0. But no, what they don't understand is I don't leave till half time.
Right, I was going
to no matter what the score is. Do you know what I mean? Those little things for me are like, as long as we're over 2 up, then I leave. And then in the second half, if we go 2 up, that's when I then dart. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's always been my superstition.
It's funny. My mum texted me. It looks like it's going to be an early day for Darragh today.
Yeah. So I've got that. And then you're always worried if you're 2 up and they score, and it's like, shit, I can't leave now. It's 2-1. So I got to, but it's always that, 2 being a minimum. So, but I watched the second half when I got home. Obviously Lincoln shut the game down, brought on an extra defender. But no, we were very good. We were very good on Tuesday. They're good teams. You want to beat the good teams around you. The acid test is the away form. The EFL gave us a real test, in the first half of the season, like Plymouth away. We got Derby next away, I think, followed by Portsmouth away, followed by Bolton away. They're all teams that are going to be up there. So you look at that away run. So, touch wood, we're going to be very good at home, but you want to see the away form be, because obviously after what happened to Plymouth, that is the question mark. Can we put that performance in, with 30,000 Derby fans screaming at us next week, and following that Portsmouth, who started very well. So, League One is, again, you don't get carried away. It's a start. That's all it is. It means shit. It means nothing. I keep saying this, There are people saying Oxford have lost games, Wycombe have lost games. It doesn't matter. 2 years ago, we lost 3 of the first 5. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's a difficult league. It's full of big teams. Sheffield Wednesday on Tuesday. You're looking at the players, you're looking at their bench, you're looking at, Bannon's not there, Windus isn't in the team. There's some big teams in this league, and some big teams starting to crow again, a la Portsmouth. And then you've obviously got Ipswich, who are, top of the table, and they were expected to be up there and have had a solid start and love a clean sheet. And I guess the great thing for us is our defenders have had a lot of crap thrown at them, and the goalies and everything else, and they've now had 6 games in Cup and League and 4 clean sheets. Mm-hmm. Like I had someone again during the week saying, you need to sign defenders. And I'm just like, Jesus, there's 3 of them can't even get in the team, not 4 of them. So calm down. And it's this constant, you need to sign this, you need to sign that. Well, Poku's now back. Yeah. Obviously tomorrow night, I think the manager's making a lot of changes for the League Cup game. Our younger players will play. I think Poku's behind Ricky and Joe. So that'll be really interesting to see how that dynamic works. Joel Randall wasn't in the squad on Saturday. Poku wasn't in the squad on Saturday. Dan Butler is now back. He's going to be playing under 23 games soon. Again, you're not fitting some really, really top players, that have won promotion with us in the squad, and people are like, sign players. And, and then there's the other thing, like I saw a few comments about people saying, well, the striking area is weak because you can't rely on Ricky or Joe Taylor to step up and did it. That's how our club works. And people have to understand as well. You can't, at this level, because of the pay thing, where there's a percentage of what you can spend, you can't just keep signing players. It doesn't work like that. I know everyone thinks there's ways around it. There's not. It's steadfast that the salary protocol management situation, I keep probably naming it wrong, is there. You just can't keep bringing in players and $3,000 or $4,000 a week and blah, 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 blah. The other thing we as a club do is we want our younger players to back up the first team players and to get experience. and to be ready when called upon. And we made a decision in the summer that Marriott and Clarke behind them will be Joe Taylor and Ricky. And they did well against Plymouth last week, both scored. Hopefully they do well against Stevenage tomorrow. Those minutes they're going to earn, those substitute appearances, learning from them, that's only going to make them better. You go and sign another striker, probably both of those players aren't in your squad. Those players aren't getting the minutes late in games when you are 3-0 up or 4-0 up. And then eventually start scoring goals. And that's where we as a club made that decision with everything, the budget and the protocol. That's the decision and the direction we went. We have to live and die by that. We just, we're not a club like Wednesday or Derby getting 30,000 fans and it can go out and sign 2 more players and $4 or $5 grand a week. We just can't do that.
Yeah, and if you did, it takes away the pathway
to
the first team for
it does.
Others will probably look at the same as
it does.
When the rubber hits the road and you need to call on somebody, they ended up going and bringing someone in on loan, or they ended up going and signing a free who's 30 or whatever.
Correct, and it's not going to happen because you look at Tuesday night. I think Charlie is playing again. Charlie O'Connell, really, really fancied by a lot of our staff and highly rated from our youth team. And then you got Manny Fernandez who's coming back soon. So you got 2 young centre halves who are backing up the centre halves, and Josh Knight's not in the team. So there's 3 centre halves, and you're like, well, who are you signing? Again to replace. And then people saying, we'll sign a left back, and I'm saying, well, we've got Tomlinson who's again impressing, and you got Harrison, and you got Dan Butler who's getting his minutes. So you sign a 4th, okay. What are you doing with 2 of them when you can't just stack players? It just doesn't work like that. So it's one of them where it's a fine balance. But and again, I'm not going to get carried away. We're good in a lot of areas of the pitch, and do we want to sign a Sammy replacement? Potentially, yes. But you've also got Poku and Joel Randall who can play 10. Yes, there's a couple of players we're looking at, but we're not going to pay over the odds. And if we have to wait, we'll wait. The manager's perfectly relaxed about that because there's so many players. And by the way, Ben Thompson is doing terrific play. He's not a natural 10, but he's doing a phenomenal job in there. And again, you sign it. Our Poku comes back in, and then you sign. Where are all the players fitting? That is, and touch wood, no injuries. You're going to have that problem. So we just again, the fans are happy. That's great, and don't be unhappy when we throw one in, because again, early in the season, that's what's going to happen. And our squad's got younger. People don't realise is we've moved players out who are the other side of 26, 27. It has got younger. And that's something else we were looking at doing. So, but we've got plenty in the squad there. And Stevenage will be a hell of a test tomorrow night because Steve Evans will play his first, strength team. He'll want to beat us.
Final.
Yeah, and they've had a phenomenal start to the season, a la typical Steve Evans. So they will be physical. It will be a test for our young players tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it will be interesting to see how they cope. Because it's at Stevenage, they're going to be physical, they're going to come at you. Let's see, So I'm excited to see the young players play. I'm excited to see how they get on, and it'll be a hell of a test. And then followed by Derby on Saturday, which will be, Derby. I think the last 2 games have had 60 shots on goal, so they're creating, and that means they're doing all the right things. So again, another team that's going to be up there, followed by Portsmouth. So it's non-stop in this league. Every time you turn around, you're playing another Premier League team.
Now on Saturday, you got Rebecca Welch as your referee, and I think was it the first time that you've ever had a female referee at Posh?
Yes, probably. Let me tell you right now, couldn't care if it was a man, a woman, whatever. Phenomenal. She was brilliant. She was excellent. So I'll happily have her loads of times. Competent, can referee higher, very calm, composed, cool. Didn't let the crowd get up. Excellent. Very, very good referee. I couldn't forget about us winning and whatever else. I couldn't criticize any of the decisions, including the penalty. It was the right decision. The tempo of the game, she ran the game, with aplomb. So that's a credit to her. And we shouldn't be making an exception just because she's a woman. We should be just talking about it was a great refereeing performance. So, but the fact there were so many eyes on her and probably the pressure on her, I don't know if that's the first League One game she's reffed. So from that perspective, I have to give credit that she actually took it in her stride. So well done. And we always want great officials. So I don't care who they are, what they look like. As long as they're really good and competent, bring them on. And we need more of them.
Yeah. No, I got a couple of emails as well from Posh fans over the weekend saying exactly the same.
Yeah, phenomenal. Bravo.
So I watched some of the Lincoln game. I mean, it looked to me a little bit like men versus boys at some point. I don't know if it was just Lincoln had a bad day at the office and you had
Yeah,
at the office.
I think Lincoln had a bad day at the office. I think they're a very good side. Their fans were brilliant. You could hear them throughout the game. They got a new coach. They have a certain style. I think the style went out the window because they played a lot of long balls and it played into our hands because with the high line, you play a high line against Jack Marriott. You're in for a problem. And Jack Marriott got in behind 6, 7 times. And he's looking fitter and fitter. That's the first 90 minutes he's played maybe, I want to say, a long time. And the fitter he is, the people like writing him off. He's 27. I'm telling you, there's a player in there with a burning desire to get back to playing in the top of the championship. So, he stays fit with Jono, and Jono scored over, I think 100 league goals now in his career, 50 for Posh. Yeah, they were very good. But a lot of credit goes to the players behind him. Joe Ward is like Mr. Assist. He's like the Alexander Arnold of League One. He's playing right wing back, but he's got 5 assists now. So if Joe Ward stays fit and is in every, he'll be in the team of the year with his eyes shut, or a bigger club will buy him. And at this stage in his career, I know Posh fans hate me saying that, but he deserves to play for a top championship team. And again, I'm not advertising to sell him. Happy to keep him. I'm going to try and do a new contract with him, but he's playing at a level now. It's always been about belief for Joe, believing in himself. If Joe believes in himself, he's as good as anybody outside the Premier League in that position. He's quick, he's physically strong, he's skillful, he's technically capable. He can play in a wing-back system, he can play in a 4-3-3. He's got goals, he's got assists. He can rinse full-backs when he wants to. And that's the key. And, early on, you could tell from Joe he was in that mood. And him and Clarke Harris just have that telepathy. And it works. So, yeah, listen, all very good, all very well done.
Yeah, I saw our old captain, Paddy O'Connor, went to Lincoln in the summer, and I think he was on Jack Marriott, and he looked like he had a torrid day against him just from the highlights.
The best defenders in our league will have a torrid day against Jack and Jono. Them two really are. I don't want to say they're the best strike partnership in EFL at the moment, but they're up there. Yeah. So if they continue and they're fully fit and they play all the games, don't be surprised if they score 30 plus goals each. And that's a nice recipe, as is a recipe with clean sheets, which is stunning me. So long may that continue as well, So, no, all good. And, let's talk Bradford. Because Bradford had another great win. I watched the highlights. Well, I was in my office. It was the early game of the day. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you got up early to watch it that early. But
5 a.m. in California.
Yeah, it looked comfortable against the struggling Hartlepool side. Obviously, you don't win at home much.
Yeah, I think Hartlepool have got the longest streak without a win in the EFL. It's in like 13 or 14 games.
Jeez.
And for the most part, it looked it.
You did the business. You lost on Tuesday late, didn't you? And then you made up for it.
Yeah, 97th minute. I think I didn't even see that because I was just in an all-day meeting. So I didn't put myself through that one. But, people weren't happy, as you would expect, going down there. And I don't think things were expected for Colchester, but, we're still kind of figuring each other out, I think. I wasn't particularly worried from a league position perspective or anything like that. But yeah, against Hartlepool, we went 1-up. It was probably too easy. Sloppy defending gave back 1-1. We had a change of system, and from that point onwards, it was pretty as easy as they come, I think.
Your boy Cook is like the Clarke Harris in League Two, no? He's like bullying people and looking the business, no?
He is. He's had a really good start, and in the summer there was a lot of questions about whether he would be sticking around or not because we brought in a bunch of strikers, and he was down the pecking order, but he's obviously shown the last couple of weeks with his goals that he can still score and don't write him off. And
if he keeps going, he'll be up there for the Golden Boot.
Yeah, and there were 2 cracking finishes as well.
Listen, he's a competent player. He's obviously one of them players who needs to be in the shape of his life. If he's in the shape of his life, he can play the top of League One, correct?
Yeah, I think so. That's a challenge he's had. Like, he openly said last year that he was embarrassed about the state of his health, his fitness that he got himself into. And so he's put a lot of work into that in the summer. I think if he carries on doing it, that's probably his limiting factor, is his fitness.
It amazes me, these players, knowing this is a short career. And I had this with Jono at our place. Like, what are you doing? You should always be, Ronaldo's a perfect example. You should always be in the best shape of your life, whatever that's your profession. That's what you're paid to do. And, look, maybe the pennies drop. Maybe the strikers you've signed, the fat Mark Hughes is there. He wouldn't settle for that. A bit like Clarke Harris this summer has come back in the shape of his life, and the penny suddenly drops. Sometimes it can be later on in the years. I go back to Ricky Lambert all those years ago. He kind of like Clarke Harris reminded me of Ricky, late in his career, start going on a goal fest and a goal rush, and you could play as high as you want. Ricky Lambert was playing in the Premier League in his 30s, after starting in League One from Bristol Rovers to Southampton. Once that penny drops and you get in it, you can be unstoppable. And Cook looks to me, if he's in the shape of his life and he's got that competition on the bench at Bradford, he'll probably have the season of his life, which is what you want. So who are you playing at home this Saturday?
So we got Crewe at home on Saturday, and then
Okay.
we've got Blackburn. Well, by the time this goes out, we'll have played Blackburn, but we've got Blackburn in the cup.
Is he going to play full strength side, or you just
I think he probably will do. Again, maybe there'll be a couple of changes, but I think he'll go into that, looking for a win. We did against Hull. We played mostly full strength because I think at this point it's still about getting minutes into all the players playing together as well, and still try to figure out the right combinations, across the team. Because I think that he's not quite sure yet of, what's his best, who is the best at the top of the strike force, who are the best ones just sat behind, and rotating that a little bit just to, try and find partnerships out of all.
Very good. Yeah. So you're a happy man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, relatively easy win. Disappointed on Tuesday with the Colchester, but I mean the players are obviously far better players than we've had for a long time.
You can feel that.
Yeah, I mean you just see it. The ability there is definitely there. It's just, is he going to pull it all together? And I mean, there's few other managers or better managers, I would say, that would have the ability to do that. So I'm pretty. Confidence not the right word, but I'm in a happy place where we are at the moment.
Do you this was there's 9 days left in the window.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need anything else?
Do we need anything? Maybe cover at the wings, a bit of width. I mean, that's the one thing that I think we're a little bit too that has stood out so far is that there's not enough. It's not pace. It's just we're probably too slow in the build-up. So we're not, going and attacking anybody particularly. We get the ball, we're slow, we're methodical, we're passing it across the back, we're passing it across the midfield. There's not really a lot of urgency. And I'm not sure if that's in the players. I'm not sure if that's the formation, but that's probably what I would say is holding us up at the moment, is that there's not really any kind of explosiveness when you're going forward.
I think, people have to understand it's 10 to 12 games in is when you start assessing. And really going, okay, this is our identity. This is what we're doing. This is, you can now start naming the 8, 9 out of the 11 every Saturday. If you get the 10, 12 games and you couldn't name 8, 9 out of the 11, probably a bit like Posh in the championship last year, you're then going, Houston, we have a problem. When you get to that 10, 12 game mark and it's the same 8, 9, you could name them just like that, then you're in a pretty good place. And that's kind of like those benchmarks for me in my head are always, 10, 12 games, then get to the other side of Christmas, and then the end of February onwards. You know what I mean? They're kind of like those 2 or 3 key benchmarks in a season to know where are we going here, kind of thing. So be interesting.
Yeah, and I think for us going up the window, it's more going to be about goings than comings. I think that we spent a lot of the budget early doors to get the players in that we wanted to get in earlier in the window, with the view that we'd probably have to move some on come the end of the transfer window. And we've been doing that the last week or two. There's been some outgoing.
Yeah, we have 2 of them. We have 2 of them still to go. We've got Kanu and Broom. We've had clubs in. Kanu went to a club the other day and then the owner pulled the deal at the last minute because I think it could be a manager thing. With Broom, we've accepted another offer for Broom today, but it's down to the player. And the window will get crazy. I mean, there are players we look at, and one that my manager likes a lot, and we've gone in for, but the player and the club will only do a loan, and I don't want to do loans in a position of an attacking position. It's not our philosophy. It's not what we do, and that's a real irritation. Do you know what I mean? We could do the deal right now, and it's actually cheap on loan, and it would cost me a lot more as a permanent, but from a long-term position, I'd rather spend than do the cheapie, if you get what I mean. And I'm just not overly mad on alone in that attacking kind of
Yeah, you
third
always
of the
talk about
pitch.
wanting to develop your own players.
Yes, because in this team we have, alone comes in, and if Poku's keeping them out of the team, they're moaning because they don't belong to the club. The owner club's moaning. If it goes the other way and they come in and you're scoring loads of goals and they're doing really well, that club sells the player for 10 million quid. And what do you get? We had Ben White here a few years ago. We paid $3,000 a week in wages. There was no discount, even though Brighton have always been good to us and whatever. But there was no discount on the wages at the time, and he goes for 50 million. It's from us to Leeds, and that's the way. And that's what I've always argued about. When Premier League teams give you these players, there should be something to compensate a lower league team for what happens next. Whether that be you don't pay wages for them, or you pay a minimum of 500 quid a week. There should be. To be fair with the goalies we brought in, they've cost us pretty much nothing because the clubs want them to go and do well. Chelsea were an absolute dream to deal with in the summer, with the lad we've brought in, because they understand him playing a full season in League One and getting these clean sheets and being in the heat of the battle, that adds, for them, it's a win-win.
There's not that many open number one.
No, but they're not. They're not. Chelsea aren't interested in the grand or $2,000 a week or $3,000 a week.
Right.
They just want the player to play, and that's what really fucking irritates me when I get into it with some Prem clubs who just want. We want the wages, and we want them paid till next July, and we want accommodation, and we want this, and we want a chef for them, and it's just like enough already. These youngsters are coming out. I've argued for years the EFL have to change this. The whole side of it, how it's done on loans.
Like some of those some of the Prem clubs who are using it as a profit center. Stockpile the youngsters, they're never going to play for you, but we use it as a profit center, and then once the contract's up, they go back on the heap and they never really make a career of it.
And this player we want to bring in, there's actually two of them we were looking at, and the club are okay to deal with, but they just won't do a sale.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're never going to get in your team with the players you've recruited. Never in a million years. The player himself being told, we're going to give you a new contract next year and you do well, and no, forget it. You're never going to get in. So you're going to be treading water again, and you're going to be back out on loan. Come to us. Help us win the league. Help us win promotion. You spend a year here. You do the business. You're going to get your own move. You're going to then get into a Premier League team. That is, trying to marry that up. Yeah. And, so you say no to certain deals, and that's just the way it goes, and I'm okay saying no to certain deals. So, it has to be on our terms. You have to recruit and do the business that suits you, right?
So let's go through the leagues.
Sure.
Let's start this week at the top with the Premier League. Now, before we go on the weekend, so by the time we've recorded again, we're all going to know the result, but we're waiting for Liverpool Man United.
I'm nervous.
This afternoon.
I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. Last one we recorded, I watched us play Palace last week and I wasn't impressed. Yeah. I know everyone was saying we were great, and even down at 10 men and everything else, but I don't remember the Palace keeper making that many saves. So we weren't that great. And obviously Nunez, who I love, lost his head with a red card. But again, the minute I saw the team and I saw there was a 38-year-old in central midfield, and I'm not having a dig there, but I just don't think you're winning league titles with that midfield. And I think if Liverpool don't win tonight, Fenway are going to be under pressure, because Jurgen can keep, holding it off and saying, well, it's not the right player out there to sign, it's not this, but he'll know more than anyone else that midfield and the lack of quality in there. When I say quality, that can go in to the 11 and make a difference. You look at Man City yesterday and the quality in the centre of the park, in the team coming off the bench. We don't have that. And I love Jordan Henderson and James Milner and everything else, but I just don't think we're winning league titles anymore as they get older without having that strength and depth in there.
Do you expect to see any more movement in the transfer window?
I don't know. If Liverpool don't get a result tonight, it might do them a favour that Fenway will be told, hey, you're going to actually potentially have a problem with top four here. Arsenal are a train on fire. Tottenham have started well. Man City are at it. Chelsea, yes, had a bad result yesterday. The spending they're at it. Don't get caught like 2 years ago where you needed a goalkeeper to score a last-minute winner at Stoke. I think it was Stoke. Was it Stoke? No, West Brom. To get into the Champions League. Because not getting in the Champions League is catastrophic financially. Yeah. So, Liverpool are going to have to spend serious money.
That's Arsenal's problem, isn't it? You drop out of the Champions League. And
Arsenal spent 300 million to remedy that. And I said to you, I think they'll be title favourites in the next couple of years, and they're starting to show. And they'll have a blip.
To get there?
Yeah, it's taken them 6 years, I think, even longer. But I think I looked at the net spend yesterday, and I think Liverpool have only net spent 10 million this summer. Nottingham Forest have spent 150 million. Chelsea will end up spending 250. Man United will spend 220. Yes, I understand. You can't just keep signing players, but when you look at the net spend, you go, hang on, you've got that for players that have left. You've spent on Nunez and a couple of younger players, but you need a standout central midfielder. You need a 60, 70, 80 million pound signing in there, if not potentially two. When you're looking at Milner next year and Henderson next year and that area, Fabinho's not looked. So as a Liverpool fan, I'm apprehensive about tonight because I don't think United can be as bad as they've been the last two games. I don't think there's any pressure on Man United. Their fans are expecting a drubbing. I think if the players go up a notch and Liverpool are where they have been the first two games, we lose. Now, it'll be interesting because Grant McCann keeps laughing at me because I keep texting him and going, the title race is over. After the Palace game, that's it, we're done. And he's laughing, but if Man City are 7-8 points ahead of you after three games, it took nearly 100 points last year to take for the final game of the season. So you can't be throwing results away against Fulham and against Palace with all due respect. So if we come out of the game tonight with a point or lose, I don't want to call the title too early. And I know my Man City drew at the weekend, but I just don't see it. So, you're concerned. And then Nunez is missing for 3 games. And Fabinho's back. And, Bobby is Bobby. He's just got a goal. I am very good. I'm watching Mane yesterday on German TV scoring goals for Bayern Munich and stuff. So I'm a little bit concerned. But listen, the one thing I've always said is we've got Jurgen. And he's a difference maker. And he could probably put 2 40-year-olds in there and they'd still have a title campaign. Against chance against Man City. So I'm probably being a typical fan and being a little bit too quick to pull the trigger on criticism. I love Newcastle yesterday. I tell you right now, watch Newcastle 15 months ago, Newcastle yesterday. The fact that they had so much of the control in Manchester City's half, the fact that the way they had their wide players up high and really gave Man City an issue, shows teams who've got quality wide players with pace that you can't trouble Man City. It can't just be about all of them and dominant possession. Newcastle were a joy to watch. And in the final third, if that quality had been there a little bbit more, they'd have won that game yesterday comfortably. But typical Man City, 3-1 down, and you just know 5 minutes, 3-3. And that's the team they are. And that's the quality they have.
Typically, I looked and found that Newcastle were winning 3-1, and I thought, oh, this looks like an upset. I'll go and put the TV on for this one.
Grant McCann killed me. I was having my post-match rundown with the gaffer on a Sunday, and he's rang me. He's obviously been out for lunch at a bev. He's rang me and we're chatting, and I've got the game on pause because he rang me during the game. So we're chatting anyway. He goes, whoa! I'm like, what's going on? He goes, oh, Newcastle have just gone 3-1. I'm like, don't fucking say anything. I'm on pause. He's like, shit. So then by the time we finished speaking, half an hour later, he goes, do you want me to tell you this result? He says, what a game. And at that point, I fucking knew Man City had pulled the goals back, because why else would he say it? So, kind of spoiled it for me, But
did you see the Kieran Trippier sending off, non-sending?
Yeah, exactly what VAR is for.
Yeah,
it's exactly what VAR is for. We criticize VAR all the time. You've got to give credit where credit's due. The first goal, where Newcastle, Almiron was offside and then he wasn't, that's what VAR is for. Those decisions are the ones you like. And I know people criticize VAR. I like it. And I think the game needs it. I've always said that. I'm all for technology. So it was the right decision. And I'm sure Man City, if the shoe had been on the other foot, they wouldn't have liked their player sent off. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, all's well that ends well. So that was a great game. I'll tell you who's really impressing me, Leeds and Brighton. Brighton are impressing me. They've always impressed me. The way they run their club, the way they recruit, the business they do, the manager, the style of play. I've always said if they added goals, they'd be a top 6 threat. It's always been in the final third. If you look at the stats, they always create enough chances, but they've never quite. They've done West Ham yesterday. West Ham fans will be panicking like fuck over their start. Leeds were fantastic to watch against Chelsea. I didn't quite know this American fellow who's the manager. Sometimes with Americans, it's all like hoo-ha and, whatever else. But listen, he's got pedigree. RB Leipzig in Germany. And I like what they've recruited in their pressing game. And they battered Chelsea. That was very comfortable. And obviously the Chelsea goal, he's thrown one in. Koulibaly doesn't look like that £100 million centre-back everyone was raving about 3 years ago. So I don't know, Father Time 31. But don't write Chelsea off, because they've got the power to go out and sign 2 or 3 signings. And if they get a number 9, Chelsea are going to be terrifying to play against. They just need a number 9. And Sterling must be pulling his hair out, because he's used to playing in a team where he's got 10 chances a game. He's not the best finisher, so he'd always get loads of goals because of the 10. Now he's suddenly only getting 1 or 2 a game, so, but Chelsea will come good.
What do you make of ex-players basically turning on the managers after they've left? So I read about Timo Werner was talking about Tuchel, and Lukaku did when
Cheap shots. I hate seeing it. I don't like ex-players turning on their teams, their managers, or their owners.
Mm-hmm.
I see it, and it's cheap shots. And I think, you got to be very careful. I've always said football's a very small industry. And, Timo Werner could wake up in 18 months' time and the current Chelsea manager could be his manager.
Yeah.
And then he's gone. So again, shut your mouth. You've been paid millions. You were shite. Your goal record was shite. You were laughed at for the amount of misses you had. Quiet.
Yeah. Now, the other one in the Premier League that's under pressure is Stevie G. Another defeat for Villa, and I see the knives are starting to come out for him.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm not sure on that one. This is a manager. Everyone's trying to throw him in there with Lampard as regards to, the start he's had. This is a guy who went to Scotland, and Rangers hadn't won the league for 10, 12 years, obviously with the triple relegation or whatever else. But he'd gone up against a very good Celtic side, and he built a Rangers team that won the league. So, and a lot of that team got them to the UEFA Cup final last year. I think people need to relax. I think Stevie needs a bit of time. I think there's a lot of things he still wants to get right about his setup. I see they pulled out of the Watford deal for the Watford player today. I think the Villa owners have paid a lot of money for him. I think it would be a little bit foolish to pull the trigger now. Yes, they weren't good in the first game of the season at Bournemouth. They were excellent for their win in the second game against Everton. They had chances against Palace. Palace are very difficult at home and are a different animal these days. So I just think, again, relax. Who are they going to get? The manager I feel the most sorry for is Brendan Rodgers. I'm reading stuff last night about him, and he's under pressure and this and that, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? He's won the FA Cup, he's won the Charity Shield, he's got them to European semi-final. They were fifth twice. He's kind of rung the bell. He's really rinsed the towel on what he can get out of them, and they haven't signed a player this summer, and he's under pressure. Are you taking the mick? I think the more thing they should worry about is if he walks, because if he walks,
you wouldn't blame him.
No, and I'd worry for Leicester if he walked and someone came in, because obviously I don't know what's going on with financial fair play. They've always spent money. They've always recruited well. They spent a lot of money in their training ground. Maybe that's why they're not spending, because they've got a state-of-the-art, top-notch training ground they spent 100 million on. So if that's the case, the owner maybe needs to come out and just go, look, we've overspent. Yeah. We're not going to be able to do any business, but we're not going to sell anyone, and we're going to back Brendan. And then Brendan gets on with coaching the young players and doing what he's got to do. So, the Leicester players need to get their act together. They should never be losing to Southampton at their place. They've got far too much quality in that squad. So the players also have to take responsibility and go, hang on a second here, lads. The manager's not getting backed. He's under pressure. We got to dig him out here. So I'd be horrified to see him lose his job.
Let's go into the Championship. So let's see. Middlesbrough have a pretty slow start. I think
he needs to stop moaning. He moans a lot, and it's always the same. He reminds me and I love Stevie Evans when he worked for me years ago. Every time he did a press conference, it was like more players. I've always said Chris Waller's a phenomenal manager. What he did at Northampton, Sheffield United, all the back-to-back promotions,
as well
everywhere. And it's just every time I see an interview with him for the last few weeks, it's just moaning. So I don't know if that's what it's like in the dressing room, but
does that mean he's in a bad spot? I mean, him mentally, or there's just something that's going on that is.
I don't know. He started moaning at the end of Sheffield United. He obviously wanted out. He's now got a very good job at Middlesbrough. I can understand they've sold £25 million worth of players, so he wants to be backed, whatever else. I get it, but it's it's a broken record sometimes. When a manager stood in an interview moaning about performances, moaning about lack of transfers, moaning about needing more players, the message to the dressing room, I don't know, you know what I mean? So maybe I'm being overcritical, but it does drive you mad sometimes when you just see the same thing being said all the time. So we all know he's a top-class manager. I don't think Middlesbrough are going to be struggling for too long. I think they've signed another foreign player that came on loan from Fulham. They've done a few. Yeah, it's a strange one. I don't know. The Championship's a weird league, isn't it? I mean, I guess Russell Martin will be under pressure because, again, the fans there, they're watching 80% possession, but it's all fur coat no knickers at the moment because they're not scoring the goals. And Luton obviously did a job on them at the weekend. Listen, you then look at Reading during the week, who hammer Blackburn. It's just a weird league. I've always said this about the Championship. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird league. So you know who the favourites are going to be. When it all shakes out after like 18, 19 games, you know who's going to be up there. I know like West Brom fans aren't having Steve Bruce, but they had a good win at the weekend, and I still think they'll be up there.
Because Hull had a good start to the season. I think Hull might have been top.
We battered Hull. I'm amazed at the start they've had. We battered their full strength side.
I know it was that. Well, it was like half their kids and half their first team, but we had them in the cup. You know that game, and we
well, we had their first strength, full strength 11, and battered them. So I was surprised by their start. So I'm hoping that wasn't a false dawn, that start. You know, because they've got a lot of foreign players in there, a lot of Turkish players and whatever. So let's see. I still think it'll be the big names.
Yeah, a shout out for Blackpool coming from 3-1 behind.
Brilliant.
In fact, it was 3-1. They were behind to draw at Burnley.
They should have won. Should have won the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they should have won the game. There was a great chance in the final 5 minutes at 3-3. Their players one-on-one, and the goalies made a save. They should have won the game. And by the way, shout out to Sunderland as well. I mean, one defeat in 20-odd games. They look like they've been at the Championship. They belong. You know, again, what did I say at the start of the season? Don't be surprised, club that size, when they catch wind, when they get that momentum, they can be unstoppable with 40,000 Macans screaming them on. So if Alex Neil gets backed and they get him a couple more signings, that could actually put them from being top 12 to top 6. So if I'm the owners, and they now seem to have decent owners there, you'd be rubbing your hands together going, hang on a second, this Championship is wide open. Right. So, yeah.
And Coventry getting postponed again, the issue we talked about last week. I haven't seen any progress on that issue at all.
Yes, they've had the pitch. I believe Wasps are putting a new pitch in, special synthetic pitch. I believe their home game is in 10 days or whatever when it's going to be done. I think like a lot of money's been spent on it, so I'm hoping that, you know, the fact all these postponements, Coventry will be fine. You know, they're so well operated, so well run, they're so well coached. You know, the only issue they might have is if they lost Callum O'Hare or the striker with the foreign name. If they lose them two and they don't replace, then they won't be fine. So, but other than that, I'd expect them to be very good this season, even with that horrendous postponement start.
And we talked a little bit about League One. I want to give a special shout out to Cheltenham winning away at Exeter 1.
Brilliant.
In the cup the week before at home.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
You know,
you love football, don't you? The results. Yeah. You know, Liverpool beat Palace years ago 9-0, and then lose 5-4 in the semi-final of the FA Cup with the same two sides. I mean, that is the beauty of football. It's like no result is ever the same, no matter what you think. You know, and you would always worry, like, we play Lincoln the next day, are we going to have 26 chances? Mm-hmm. So it's the beauty of the game.
And also for Wickham, a win 3-0 away at Barnsley. You know, I think that people have been writing Wickham off a little bit more this season.
Ridiculous.
The last couple of years, but
ridiculous. So well run, so well managed, well owned. Bit of a shaky start. Like I said, it's ridiculous. Same with Oxford. If anyone's calling for Carl Robinson's head, ridiculous. You know, good teams, well-run teams. You know, again, Wickham are going to be up there, as will Oxford be.
And Oxford were able to keep Branahan as well, weren't they? Which was
they had like a release clause, and they took it out and they gave him a new deal. And listen, like I said to you, you know what I mean? It's a shit start, but many a team have had a shit start. It means nothing. Just like doing well at the start means nothing. How many managers a month and how many starts have I seen over the years? It really, really is fucking irrelevant.
It's basically a 5-game form table at the moment, which, you know, anyone can have good form and anyone can have bad form over the season.
Correct, my partner. Correct. So League One is League One. That is just that league. I mean, you look at all the teams up there. Were there any standout results then? Pretty much, you know, a lot of them are how I thought.
Yeah, MK Dons continue to struggle a little bit. They had a 1-1 at home to Accrington.
Going to take time. A lot of players bedded in. Different style of football. That does take time. Will be a threat. Accrington, fantastic. You know, scoring goals. Should have won that game by all of the accounts I heard. Again, I said it last week. You know, there's nothing you can criticise that football club for.
I don't have anything written down here, but I'm remembering Joey Barton having a go at the Cowboys over the weekend.
What happened?
Which was an interesting one. He was. I wish that I had like the quote in front of me, but he was just essentially being critical of Portsmouth, and you know, then end up gets. I don't know if it's pre-game or post-game because they got beaten 3-1 by them, but Yeah, he just wasn't very complimentary.
Well, I've had my obviously battles with Joey, and obviously he showed me a good loser. I'm the same. I'm not a good loser. He's obviously lost his head, but what he's done with Bristol is, you have to commend him for it as much as I've had rows with him in the past. So, what about League Two? Obviously, Salford seem to be setting the kind of doing well.
Yeah, they. What did they do at the week? I think
they came on. They came on stuck, didn't they?
Yeah, to Doncaster. Northampton, well, they're fourth, but they're. I'm looking at the goal scorers. Sam Hoskins.
What about Donny with all the late goals? By the way, you don't want to leave early in a Doncaster game, do you? Jesus, I mean, they love a 90+ minute winner, don't they? It's interesting.
And Leyton Orient really started well. I mean, they're top at the moment.
Good team. Good team. I saw that in Portugal when we beat them. Good team. Mm-hmm. So Richie Wellens, promotion winner from there. Good team.
And let's see, Mansfield beat Stockport.
They're on a run now. Hey, Mansfield are on the run. Yeah. Keep an eye on them. Stockport obviously about a sticky start. 3 losses in 4, I think.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
A shout out to, we talked right at the beginning about Stevenage and Steve Evans and
Stevie boy.
Yeah.
4
wins in
no shock. No shock. Tough to beat. Tough to score against. Typical Steve Evans. And he'll talk it down. He'll be talking about safety while secretly hoping to win the league. That's Steve all over. By the way, quick one. The Wrexham thing's coming out on American TV. I told my missus, but I watched the Arsenal Amazon Prime documentary in full. I don't know if you watched that yet. But the Wrexham one comes out on Hulu in the States on the 24th.
I'm actually looking. So I was in LA this week, and it was everywhere, all over LA. It was the most surreal thing in the world to be driving, around Santa Monica, and at the bus stop, there's big posters for Wrexham with Wrexham all over it. And then I went to the LAFC game on Tuesday, and they had big London bus out at the front of it.
The FX are spending the money. I mean, obviously Reynolds and McElhenney, or whatever his name is, Rob McElhenney, who's bought it with him. They've obviously, I think they got a 2-series deal, so that's pretty much helped them fund that whole. Mm-hmm. It's great. It'd be great, like for me to buy a football club and it gets funded by a documentary or a TV series. But no, I'm saying as an owner, not have to dig in. When you get that kind of deal commercially in place.
The deal before you even, I think.
Listen, fair play. I mean, they've got an absolute sleeping giant there, and if the series takes off in America, they'll probably wash their face by it. And they've started okay. I think the season a bit of a wobble there, but they obviously won at the weekend, and it's an interesting league. Chesterfield have started well. They've started well. Notts County, style of football, have started well. It's going to be very interesting because they have to get out of that league this year, because you're doing a series. Basically, Series 1 is going to show the end where they lose in the playoffs and the cup final, and then Series 2, the network at that stage, you're like, for fuck's sake, lads, you need to get this, rise up the pyramid, rocking and rolling.
We're not just going to do a multiple series about a national league team.
Yeah, exactly. We need you in the league, so I would expect them to win that league this year.
Yeah, I did just want to call out at the bottom of League 2, Rochdale, I think, first manager gone already. I mean, what was it last week, 17th, 18th of August, and you've already got the first manager gone. So that's
early, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen Rochdale, but I know they're struggling. But,
they lost all 5 so far.
Yeah,
and then
there you go.
Crawley, second bottom.
I saw the guy interviewed on Sky during the week, one of the crypto people or whatever else, and talking about how they're voting on player recruitment and the aspirations of the China. Yeah, I'm not sure about all that. And the guy, listen, nice enough guy, an American guy, and whatever else, but I'm not sure. So I guess they're trying to change the style. I guess whatever else. I don't know about the business they've done, bar sign the leading goal scorer from last year. So again, I haven't seen enough of it, but I guess it'd be interesting to see that if they continue to struggle, what happens with those owners? Do they lose interest, and do they lose, the whole thing that's set in motion? Do they go, okay, that's out the window, and we'll stop having fans voting on who we're signing and what we're doing? So I've never been part of that.
I think they basically said that if they don't go up within, I think it's either 12 months or 24 months, then they'll put to a vote for them to get voted out as chairman.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's let's see where we got left to go. We've gone through. That's where I wanted to ask you one thing about just a general topic, and then I do have some questions. I think I've got a couple of questions that came in. I saw Nigel Pearson having a rant about referees. We talked about your ref earlier. What do you make of that? Is he just making excuses?
Well, he's making excuses after they've won both games. So, in his defence, he's not making excuses. I guess he's frustrated. I guess, that side of the game can frustrate the living shit out of you. And he's right to say that, decisions can cost people their careers, their livelihoods. So I understand his passion for it. I can't criticise him for him being honest. And he's only been honest. He's had a good start with Bristol City. Again, they brought him in there. He's a very experienced manager. He's won promotion from the Championship. He's managed in the Prem. He started the whole Leicester thing off that led to them winning the title. I guess he's just at the end of his tether with some of the things that have gone against him. So I'm sure the Ref Association have talked about it. I'm sure he'll probably get charged, the usual. Do I think he'll walk out on a job that pays him, high five figures a year? I doubt it, so people get emotional. They say silly things.
Yeah. All right, we've got a couple of questions. So, first question is from James, who's a Southend United fan. He says, a long-suffering Southend fan, seen as challenge for promotion to the Championship to suffering back-to-back relegations now in the National League. My question to Darragh, and it's kind of interesting along the, because we were just talking about Wrexham. It says, if you were in charge of a club relegated to the National League, of course, promotion is the only objective, but how would you go about doing this? Would you burst the bank like a Stockport and a Wrexham? Or would you go like a Sutton United approach and try and build steadily?
Well, me, I'd want to win the league. So, but you don't go at the break the bank situation because the money is less in that league and you could really get yourself in trouble. And if you start going down some of the bigger clubs in there like Wrexham and start paying $5 and $6 a week, nobody at that level should be on more than $2 a week, in my opinion. Nobody should be getting 4, 5, 6, 7. No manager should be getting $12 a week, like I've heard one manager's getting. I mean, that's just it's unsustainable. It sets a club up for failure if anything happens to the owners. You could go into administration. I'd go down a different route. What I'd probably try and do is I'd base it on going on a base of using my younger players. I would surround them with talented players from that league and the league below non-league. I would go and get the best 2 strikers from the one level below. I'd go and get 3 or 4 of the best players from that league that can step up to that next league and kill it. I would make sure I had 2 strikers that score 30 goals each because you need 100 goals in that league to get out. And that's how I'd set it out. And I would very much stick to young and hungry, and let's have some fun and let's go at this. But there's no way I would ransom the club's future, on things that can happen. So, I'm not saying Wrexham are doing that. I'm not saying whatever else. I'm just anything that happens to those owners, those clubs are left with those contracts are contracts. You can't break them. So when you're paying somebody 5, 6, $7 a week, someone who's over 30, and you're paying managers $12 a week, bear in mind some of those clubs are only bringing in $2 million a year. So if you've got a wage bill that's 4 or 5 or 6 million, who's making up the 4 million if those owners are gone?
Yeah, a year.
It's administration. Yeah, it's administration. So you've got to be really careful. Like Grimsby is a good example last year. They do things diligently. They run things within their means. They don't overspend, and they won promotion. And I dare say Grimsby probably had very little losses. In fact, the Dembele sale probably helped them turn to a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So again, dangerous. It's very dangerous. Next question.
And a question from Stephen, who's a Celtic fan. Stephen says that he knows that you were critical of Celtic and their manager earlier last season.
Yeah, wrong. Take it back. Yeah. Ange, what a job. I don't always get it right. Sometimes it's the unknown and you're making comments and you're giving opinions is what podcasts are about. So my full apology to him. He's a top-class operator. He's a top-class recruiter. And Celtic have got something special going on again in a quick, short period of time. Because after losing that title to Rangers and that period of uncertainty and letting go and the new manager coming in, you think, no, this could be a couple of years before Celtic get back on the horse. And straight away, they were good to go. It's a fair play to the ownership, fair play to the new manager, the recruitment team. I completely got that wrong. And as a Celtic fan, happy to have got it wrong.
Now, I just got one quick question to finalize. Like, when teams, you talked about the quick turnaround, things were going wrong, they need to turn it around quickly. They did turn it around quickly. You have relegated clubs, they get relegated. some clubs get relegated, they languish. Some clubs get relegated, they turn it around straight away, straight back up again. Is there a difference in approach which leads to a club being better suited to bounce back?
We've done it a couple of times. We've bounced back and we've languished. But before we languished, we got to the playoffs and then we ran out of steam, because I think you've got a year at most to keep most of your best players when you get relegated. And if you can keep most of your best players, you can bounce back. I think once you go past that year, if you don't bounce back and say you're losing the playoffs, the next year you are losing your best players. And then there's the financial difference. Like, our biggest challenge this year was that £6 million hole. How do you plug it? Okay, you have to sell players, but you still have to make sure you're a competitive squad against some really good teams. Do you get what I mean? And yes, whilst I get criticised and whatever else, my partners aren't putting the money in. I'm not putting the money in. It's that time. You need to do some good business, and that's where I come in. I have to basically rob Peter to pay Paul, and don't use that as a negative headline, Alan Swan or whatever else. But you have to make the numbers work.
You're generating cash.
Yes, correct. So I've spent most of the summer doing that and fighting and making sure that by the end of the window, we're still a top 6 team that has a chance of winning the title and promotion.
Yeah.
And then I think after a period of time, if you're languishing and stuck, the reboot needs to be set. And we got caught for a few years languishing, not quite there, challenging, not challenging, just missing out, and then the reboot. Mm-hmm. So that can happen as well.
All right, well, let's wrap it up for this week. Thank you as ever.
Oh, by the way, I've hit the £25 mark I've lost in 2 months.
Congratulations.
How's that for an achievement, by the way? Huh? That's what you call discipline, baby. You know what I mean? 2 months, £25. Another 5 to go.
So we need to start, when you get back into the States, that's your weekly accountability.
Correct, yeah. Trying to stay. The minute I get back and I start drinking again and I start fucking eating and my missus is cooking for me, that's where I need to lose another 5 to give me a bit of a £10 kind of window. And then I'm going to start working out. So, yeah, very happy. You know what I mean? But, yeah, listen, everyone, for your support. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I believe we're up for awards,
yes.
The podcast awards. Do you want to talk about that and get people to vote? Let's win this time.
Yeah, so we're voting is opened for the Football Content Awards. We're in the Best Podcast Football League category. We're really thankful last year, all the votes that we got, we were able to get, I think, bronze place in that. But this year we're going for gold.
We want gold.
So just go to footballcontentawards.com. That's footballcontentawards.com/voting. Then just scroll down to our category, which is Best Podcast Football League. Type in Hard Truth. Jobs are good.
So, for everyone listening, and we have thousands of you, bear in mind that Henry and Rob behind the scenes, the work they do, you're paid fuck all. This is like a merit for them. This gives them, a little bit of bragging rights. Yeah, and kudos, because they put so much work into the pod. So don't vote for me or Phil. Go, every one of you. If you all vote, we will win.
Yeah.
But go and vote so that Henry and Rob can go to the event, have a smile on their face, and let's do the business. Thank you, fans, for listening.
Footballcontentawards.com/voting is the place.
There you go. Get voting, guys.
Good luck this week, Darragh.
And you, my pal. We need a Posh win double. Couple of wins back to back. Happy days.
And we'll see you all next week.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.